On this week's episode, my friend hard launched her husband. Welcome to the Ask a Matchmaker podcast. This is Matchmaker Maria, and I am so excited to introduce you to one of my friends this week, Iris Smyles. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you.
So we're actually friends in real life, and she did something really crazy this week. But before we talk about that, I really want to talk about who you are, like in public society, before we talk about personal stuff. So Iris is an author. She has written 3 incredible books. I'm going to include the links to these books in the show notes, but they are fantastic. I loved reading Iris Has Free Time. I loved reading Dating Tips for the Unemployed. We'll talk about that in a second. And then last year's book was Droll Tales.
Yes.
Which is like the media called delightfully weird.
Yes, it frequently gets referred to as weird, but in a good way.
So I love that. And her stories, I'm gonna brag about my friend now. Her stories and poems have been featured in the New York Times, The Atlantic, Vogue, Paris Review. Yep. We've got the whole thing. And now you're on the Ask a Matchmaker podcast.
Now I'm finally reaching the summit.
This is it.
That you've invited me on. I know I've arrived.
Yes. Yes. Okay, so Iris, author, before we talk about the personal life, let's talk about, I want to give a layout of the plane of our friendship. We met through another author.
Yes.
Jennifer Wright, who I have had, I think, on the podcast a very long time ago because she writes incredible books as well, mostly nonfiction, with her humor intertwined in the pages. And do you remember meeting?
Yes. You were, I think, throwing a party for her for one of her books at a hair salon.
Yes, I was throwing for her first book. I threw it at, I think, the John Bartlett salon.
Yes.
Do you know what I remember about that? I remember 2 things. They'll remain for me forever. The first thing is that I had purchased like 4 cases of champagne. Is it 4 cases? It's like 12 bottles of champagne each case. And I thought this is enough for an hour and a half for 40 people. And it was 40 journalists that were coming to.
Oh, yeah. Oh, I see the problem.
Yeah, like we ran out of alcohol in like 30 minutes.
Yeah.
Like I couldn't believe it. And then the second thing I remember about that party is you. You showed up in this patterned 3-piece suit.
Yes, I do remember that outfit. That was a good suit. It was a 3-piece suit, plaid. It's a men's suit, but
tailored to you though.
No, it was just a little small. And I just, men's clothes somehow fit me better.
It looked so good. You just made such an impression. And then we hung out a little bit, and then we found out that you and I summer in the same place in Greece. Yeah. Which blows my mind because I see you. This is my first time seeing you in the States in years, but I see you every year in Greece.
Yeah, that is really strange, especially because most Americans don't go there or know about that area at all.
Yeah, it's just only Greek tourism.
Find that, yeah. Whenever people ask me, oh, which island do you go to? And then I have to break their heart and tell them it's a peninsula. They always seem disappointed that it's not Santorini or Mykonos or something.
And there's like no clubs.
Right. We used to have a club many years ago. It's Lore, the local town Lore.
Yeah.
But... yeah, so it's so strange, of all places, this tiny little village in Pelion that we're just...
And you live there in the summer, and my sister lives 30 minutes from you. And so even like last summer and this summer, we rented a place the little village is called Galanera, which literally means good water. And I remember being there not this summer, but 22 summer. And we were just hanging on the beach every day.
Yeah.
And then the following year, you're on your bike. I was like, well, there's Iris. I see Iris in Greece and not in New York.
This summer, it was very funny, too, because we had talked earlier about like, oh, when are you going? Blah, blah, blah. We'll connect once you're there. And then I was just kind of putting my towel down at the beach at Nagual. And I see a text message from you saying like, oh, we're here and where are you? And so I'm like, oh, I'm at the beach at Nagual. I finished texting you and then I look up and you're 2 lounges away from me. And I'm like, I just walked over.
Here we are. And have you happened to be there when Tropical Storm Daniel came through, right?
Is that what it was called?
That's what I think.
The Medicane?
Yeah.
In
The
September.
first ever, September 5th, right?
Yeah, yeah. Oh, yes, that was terrifying. That was
Yeah.
really the worst storm I've ever been in. My house is quite remote too, so like the bridges to that area went out. The roads were destroyed because there's no cement road there. It's just a dirt path. So
Mm-hmm.
it was just a river
The
just
topography
flowing.
fully shifted. I mean,
Yeah, it was serious damage, and we lost power, no water for days.
yeah.
It was kind of a miracle that we got out. At that time, I was staying there with normally my family's there, but they had left, and my girlfriend Laura Lobdell was visiting.
Was this her first time in Greece?
Yes.
Oh my God. Imagine like this being your bucket list item and you
Yeah.
experience Greece's first tropical storm ever.
And nobody was prepared in the village because normally we get like little squalls, like severe, but they're over in an hour.
No one expected the equivalent amount of rain that Greece would get in 3 days in, I think, like, what was it, 10 hours or something like that?
Yeah.
I mean, excuse me, the equivalent rain that Greece would get in 3 years, it received in 12 hours.
Yeah, they said it was the worst storm in recorded history in Greece.
Right.
It was totally crazy, and nobody was prepared. Because I think also everyone in the village were like, yeah, we're going to have a little rain today. Did you hear about the storm? My other friend, Maria, who lives in Volos, we were planning on having dinner that night in Volos, and she's like, yeah, there's supposed to be a storm, though, so let's see. Maybe we'll, postpone it for another night.
Right.
But we'll see how it goes. And then the lightning, I mean, it just wouldn't go. It was really terrifying.
It's funny because we have a lot of family there, right? My sister lives there, my nephews, but also my son's godfather lives there. My brother-in-law's family lives there. And of course you live there and you're living on the water. They're in Volos city. That's where Iris lives nearby. That's the closest city. Again, it's only a few kilometers away. So when I say 30 minutes away, it's only 30 minutes away because there's only one road.
Right.
So you've got the traffic. Otherwise, it would be like 7 minutes. But it was interesting watching your perceptions like in real time shifting. Because at first it's like, oh, we have some rain today.
Right.
And then Chrysula was like recording the outside. She's like, because my sister lives opposite. I don't know what you call. I know it's called arema in Greek. I don't know what it's called in English. But like, do you remember? For those listening, do you remember the movie Terminator 2 when Arnold Schwarzenegger is riding that motorcycle in this thing? Do you have no idea what I'm talking about? Anyway, it's like where the water goes from a mountain. It's like redirects it, kind of like a canal.
Okay.
But it doesn't always have water. So my sister lives like opposite this.
Oh.
So because she lives right, where Pelion Mountain is, she lives right there before it becomes right when it becomes Volos, right?
Yeah.
So all the water that comes down from the mountain, it gets rerouted this way. And it's like about 30 feet deep. And usually in the summer when we're there, it's empty.
Right.
And I was just there a few weeks ago and it's bone dry because there's not been any rain. And Crystal is showing me video and she's like, it's like all the way up. It's like filled up. Like 30 feet of water is just, heading down this way. And then the next day when it got really bad and Crystal lost power, I'm watching CNN and they're covering this storm.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, that looks like Crysula's house. That looks like, my sister's house right there. And it was like they had parked it and it's like facing her house because the bridge near it had collapsed.
Yeah.
The pedestrian bridge. And then you're posting on Facebook and Instagram stories about what's happening when you're in. And I'm like, how are you going to get out of there? Because I know what the topography looks like. I saw that the bridge had collapsed as well. I don't know. It was just a very odd experience from far away because you're like worried.
It was kind of a miracle. And luckily I have a lot of friends there who rallied and, helped me to escape because also in a few days I was supposed to fly to visit my now husband, but then just a love interest. So I really wanted to make that plane. And I wanted to live, I wanted to live because I wanted to live, but also I, was excited to meet this guy.
But, it's funny because like Ursula was like safe in her house. Her house was good. Her neighbors opposite that Emma were not necessarily that good, but, people around her neighborhood, it was very bad. They didn't have electricity for a really long time. They didn't have water for a long. They still don't have drinkable water.
Really?
No, yeah, they can't even, it's not even boiling. I think they have like E. coli in the system or something.
Oh
So
God.
they have to even brush their teeth with bottled water. But then I'm reading your stuff and I'm like, is Iris okay? Like I was screenshotting stuff because I knew she wasn't getting everything to my sister. Like we got to check on Iris. You, I mean, you were like, it was like escape route because you're on the coastal town of this.
Yeah, and all of the roads connect. There was one brief after sort of 3 days, we decided to make a break for it, and a friend of mine there who is like one of like in part of the volunteer rescue, and so he came from Volos and went all the way up into the mountain, then
When
back
it came
down,
down,
and
wow.
managed to get to us. We couldn't come down on the road. We walked along the way to meet him to get to the main road, and. Was a few close calls. He got a flat tire. We managed to sort of get through in this lull in the storm before it picked up again. And then we were trying to, we got, when we finally got to Volos, and getting out of there was horrible, really, because there were drowned animals on the road. I
Wow.
mean, it was
And weren't
terribly
you trying
sad.
to like at that moment? I remember before I left you, you were about to foster or give some cats away or like something was happening.
Oh, I had sort of adopted these stray cats that I was taking care of in the summer.
How are they? Did they
Now
make it?
they're fine, but so I had a plan to give them over to the neighbor
Right.
for their care. And by neighbor, this is like, some houses down on the beach. Again, not there's no road there, um, so now it's this crazy storm. I'm wondering, how am I going to get the cats over there? Finally, luckily, I managed to get in touch with her, and so left some food and the keys and for her, and so she was able to collect them later. But at a certain point, my friend Laura was like, "We need to get out now. We need to get out now." And
Did
I'm
your
like,
house
"I'm not
suffer
leaving the
any
cats."
did your house suffer any damage?
It's very strong, and where it's
Okay.
located, so it was fine. The water just sort of rushed past and emptied out and into the sea. The sea was just all brown.
I bet.
It was just
And like you said, it's a peninsula, so it's gonna I think there's
right.
like a swim advisory now for the next 2 years or something like
Oh
that.
dear, that puts a crimp in the idea of a wedding party there.
I don't know. Don't
Yeah.
I mean that's what Shul told me. I think they said it was like a year and a half or 2 years before I know that my son's godfather, who's one of my husband's best friends, he lives in Volos, but he had his house in that village that I'm not trying to laugh. It's just traumatizing for me to say it out loud. Do you know that village that like the houses start to float away? It starts with a P, I think. Well, anyway, so his village house was there, and it is
Yeah.
just like completely like gone.
Oh my
And I was just
God.
like, wow, like that, it really changed the topography. My sister told me that the park across the street from her house is still covered in 3 foot mud.
It's
Um,
heartbreaking. Uh,
yeah, and everything has changed. And then just for people to understand, like where Volos is located, it's in Calanera, where Iris lives. It's next to Pilion Mountain. Pilion is a really big mountain, and it's a ski resort mountain. So yes, there are ski resorts in Greece.
yeah, people don't know that. They were
Yeah, people don't know
surprised.
that. People immediately think when they think of Greece, they think of Santorini, which is like such a far,
Right.
it's so far from every other reality. But anyway, so yeah, you mentioned something while you were telling us your story about how you wanted to see upon a boy.
Yeah. So he was also trying. I had met him in the village 3 or 4 weeks earlier, and
Okay, you're getting ahead now. All
yeah,
right, because to me this is I'm here
I
to
don't know
talk
where to
about your
begin.
love story. We haven't talked. So Iris hard launched that she got married on social media 2 weeks ago. And I immediately messaged you. I was like, oh my God, this is amazing. La, 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 la. And then I was like, do you want to talk about it on the podcast? Because I love hearing stories like this. Surprise, surprise.
Hmm.
And you surprisingly said, okay, so let's hear it.
Well, I've been looking forward to telling you about it actually, because obviously your business and passion is matchmaking, and yeah, who would have thought that I would find someone at this point? I mean, I remember swimming with you this summer, and again having the conversation of like that I was thinking about having a baby by myself. I'd
Uh-huh.
given up on relationships. Not that I wasn't closed to it, but that I just was no longer searching for it, because I just wanted to kind of move on with my life and feel that I was complete and not always searching for another
Right.
piece, which is hard hard to do.
It's also hard to acknowledge that. It's hard to accept that.
Yeah.
After
So I mean,
many
I had
years.
some hopes that like maybe I might meet someone, in the nursing home in my 70s because of, did you read that story about the syphilis epidemic at
Yeah.
the nursing home in Florida?
Oh, yeah.
I found that to be such a story of hope.
I love that.
I was like, okay,
I mean,
it's
did
not,
you know-
it doesn't stop,
Do you know what the villages? Do you know what the villages are? The villages is like retirement. It's the
Oh,
biggest
yeah, yeah,
retirement
yes,
community in
yeah.
the country. It's in Florida. I think it's made up of like, I want to say 77,000 people, or it might be 177,000 people. But they have the highest rate of STDs in the whole
It's
country.
so inspiring.
It is inspiring. I was like, George, this could be us. Like, it's like for every orgy we don't do in our, in this life right now, we can do it later, It's like there's hope.
Yeah, I mean, it shows you that life doesn't just, cut off at a certain point. Although sometimes I think, especially as a woman, you feel that way. Like, people say like, everything's fine until you're 40, but after that, like you're sort of going over a cliff.
When you turned 40, did you feel that cliff?
Yeah, I did. I mean, I had a lot of apprehension about that, but actually it didn't seem as significant as being 45, which is what I am now. Because then I guess, wow, I really am, I'm close to 50, which is close to 60, which is close to 70. And,
What?
how much time do I have left? I mean, because it speeds up when you get older, right?
Yeah, I guess.
Yeah. So it's like, blink and then you're on to the next life.
So your vacation Calanera, I said goodbye to you. Like I went
Yeah.
off to Crete. And then how long later did...
Well, let's see. I met him on July 30th.
Can we know his name, or should we give him like a pseudonym?
His name is Alexander.
Oh my God, that's like the best name. Alexandros. Is he Greek?
His mother's from Greece,
Okay.
from Volos.
Oh.
Yes, his father's Persian, and he was born and raised in Germany. And his parents met in medical school in Germany.
Oh.
So they both went to study abroad.
Okay.
And then, so he's, I guess, it's always so, I don't really know how to describe him because he's not exactly German, but he's just everything.
He's a third culture kid.
And then he lives in Liverpool now. At one point he was in America many years ago.
What languages does he speak?
He speaks German, Greek, and English.
And does he go by, like, what does his mom call him? Does mom call him Alexandros, Aleko, Alexander? Like, what's the name he likes to be called?
I don't know. Alexandros?
What do you call him?
I'm working on that. I mean, I call him Alexander because the thing is, everyone keeps calling him Alex, and it's a big source of frustration for him because even they automatically shorten it. So I've been trying to honor him from the beginning by calling him Alexander, but then everyone else calls him Alex, so I feel like I'm this kind of weirdo. His
People
Persian name
have
is
been-
Ishkander.
What?
Ishkander is the Persian version of Alexander. So I tried Ishkander. Or Ish, or sometimes he talks a lot during movies and I don't like it, so I call him Shh. And I'm like, no, it's a sweet nickname. Shh. Shh. But or I call him Dr. Montezem because he's a professor at the University of Liverpool
What kind of professor?
of psychology,
Wow.
which was a
Okay.
big red flag at first.
Sure.
Because I find most psychologists that I've encountered are crazy. Most, not all, but frequently like a higher incidence of insanity with people who are therapists or in that profession. It's just my own. It's anecdotal,
For people who are listening to this podcast and not watching it, you heard me say sure, as in like, like I agree with you. But if you're watching this on YouTube, I'm just humoring Iris as she says this.
And that, I mean, it's okay.
Listen, I'm not disagreeing with you. Is that right? I'm not disagreeing with you.
I mean, Hannibal Lecter, right? He was a psychologist.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. So
anyway, I'm not comparing my husband to Hannibal Lecter. He's totally different
all right.
in all the important ways.
Yeah, no, I hope
Yeah.
so. Oh, you mean he's not eating your skin? Okay, good.
But anyway, what I mean is, so I misunderstood at first.
Puts the
I thought
lotion in the basket.
he's more of a social scientist. So he
Okay.
it's statistics, and he does participates in studies and things like that.
So when did you meet? Because I think, before you keep going, I want to just say, like, I constantly tell people, like, if you have yourself out there, I don't believe in this thing where people say, you know, it's going to come when you least expect it, because that's bullshit.
I didn't expect it for years and it never came. So
there you go.
I agree.
But I do believe that you have to make an effort to go out, to be open to new experiences, be open to new solutions. Like, there is this formula of meeting people and then opening yourself up to opportunity. So from what I'm gathering, and I want you to tell me the specifics, is, you know, over the summer, you met a guy and you found out that he also lives in Liverpool, and you didn't at any point go like, and you're going to tell me if I'm wrong here, but you weren't like, oh, he lives in Liverpool, forget it. Like, you have to be open to what possibility could happen, right? So tell me now, like, when did I leave you? And because I remember seeing you the last day before I left. I think I left you like August 1st.
So that was just about the time that we met. We met on July 30th.
Wow.
At the beach. Well, actually, I was walking inside to the cafe there to use the bathroom at Nagual.
Yeah.
And then I felt someone walking in the same direction alongside me on my right. And you know how it's weird when you feel like you're walking with someone, but you're not addressing them?
It gets like synced up. And,
right, but you're still pretending that you're not sharing like the planet in this small space together.
Yeah,
I mean, there weren't tons of crowds. So anyway, so I turned to my right before looking at him, and I just said, "Are you racing me to the bathroom?" And those were the
You said this in English?
Yes.
And you just assumed that they...
I don't know. I mean...
I love that.
I mean, I wasn't really thinking much, and he looked at me in this strange, bemused and somewhat irritated way, and he said, I think there's 2 bathrooms, so you don't have to worry. And I felt like, oh, well, he's not that interested in talking, so I just moved on, went to the bathroom. I came out, sat down at the beach, swam. At one point, I turned around and I saw a friend of mine later on in the day talking to someone, and he said, Iris, I want you to meet Alexander. He had just met him on the beach, my Turkish friend Ali, and we recognized each other. Oh, it's you from before. Anyway, the moral of the story is that one of the ways that we recognize we're right for each other is that had we been different people, we wouldn't have met on the way to the bathroom because we would have peed in the sea. So that's like number one that we have in common. You know.
I didn't even think about this. I thought you were just going for a poop.
I mean, I actually...
Which means, by the way, my daughter is exactly
one.
like my kids, not just my daughter, both of my kids, I am trying to, like, can you just pee in the water? Like, I have to go to the bathroom, pee in the water.
Yeah, but you have to admit, like, that place, that small little beach where it's really crowded, I mean...
Yeah, no, it's
There's
good.
probably a lot of urine in that water, but still, I mean, anyway.
Yeah, it's fine.
Anyway, I mean...
Maybe my kids will meet someone.
That's not the most important thing. But yes, that's how we met. And with regard to what you're saying, actually, I never talk to people that I don't already know. Mm-hmm. So turning to him and talking to the person next to me was a very kind of like this summer before I met him, I was really embracing this kind of radical openness, which was I'd stopped searching for, a boyfriend or a husband or that sort of thing. And I just thought, well, if I'm going to be alone in the world, then I want to have a lot of friends and I want to, participate in the world around me. So I just was much more open with talking to everyone. Like my friend Ali, the Turkish guy, was another person that I had met at the beach and had this whole sort of growing group of friends. And so it's kind of ironic that had I not embraced this kind of radical acceptance of, okay, this is my life, I'm single, so how do I live as a single person in the world? I probably would have been, as I normally am, more shut down, more shy, more directed, like I'm not going to talk to some stranger or whatever. And so we began as friends. I mean, certainly he was very attractive, so I was
I know, I saw his photo.
Interested.
I was like, well, hubba.
When we were talking, my automatic assumption was also he must be, married with kids or because everyone is at a certain age. I just kind of assume that. And then when he mentioned he was divorced, I tried to not look too excited.
Did he mention in that first conversation that he was divorced?
Yes, I think I asked him something about like, oh, your kids, or
Did he
just
what he has a kid?
he has a son.
And was he there with him?
He was not. He was on his son was with his mother for
Okay.
vacation, and so he was having this for the first time in his whole life as a father on vacation alone.
This man on vacation alone is having a conversation with a tall Grecian beauty at the beach. And in that first conversation, he says, I have a child and I'm divorced.
Yes, I mean it didn't come up automatically, but
Sure.
we were, talking for quite a long time about this and that and the village and the place.
Oh, right. Okay.
And
Had he ever been there? Oh, wait, he's from Volos, his mom. Right?
yes,
So he's been there before.
yeah, like once, but he's
Oh, okay.
one of the things is he doesn't typically go there because he finds it too touristy. But for whatever reason, he had decided.
Kalanera is touristy?
Yeah.
It's literally the local watering hole. What is he saying?
Well, I guess what he means is because it's built up with cafes and
It's
stuff.
so German of him.
Yeah, and so I mean, I said, well, you don't understand it. You have to get to know it. We have a great life here, and so I'm also kind of the ambassador for Culinara, and I'm always like evangelizing about it.
Totally.
Come and meet the culinarians. It's nice here.
Oh, yeah.
So I was
just
like,
wanna
you should
say,
come
I
back and
use your
see
name.
us.
I use your name. Like, at that beach place that we go to, I'd be like, I'm Iris's friend. Because, sometimes they'd be like, they're like, you order stuff and they're like, okay, pay now. And I'm like, I'm friends with Iris. They're like, oh, pay at the end.
No.
Hell yeah. On day
Really?
one, I set the invite.
And did they fine you for it? Did they add a little extra to the bill? Just
No, they were like, oh, the chips will be free. And I was like, yeah.
Well, the chips are free.
No, they were just like, they were cool with it. Like, I don't want to pay once. Like, I know I'm gonna be at the beach for the next 7 hours.
Right.
I don't want to have to keep taking out money every time I'm ordering something. Just give me the bill at the end. I'm good for it. I know Iris. That's what I said. Because that what's his name? George or something like that? I'm assuming his name is George or Chris. Some common Greek name.
Uh-huh.
The waiter.
Alexander?
Yes.
Alexi?
Yeah, the one with the glasses, the cutie.
The blonde.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's like Greek British or something.
Yes,
yeah,
yes.
Yeah. So he speaks English and I was just like, can I just pay at the end? I'm friends with Iris. That was on day one.
Uh-huh.
And that was it for the rest of the week. He's just like, it's fine. I don't care. I was like, yeah.
Oh, I'm so happy to hear that.
Because like, hello. Yeah. So yeah, you're definitely like the patron saint of Galanera. Goddess.
Well, I don't know about the patron saint. Although my friend was the president of Culinara years ago, and he then said that one day he would present me with the key to the city. But he's no longer in a position of power, so I've lost the key.
I'm sorry.
I did get to go to his inauguration, though.
There you go.
In what was it, Argalasti or something? And at the inauguration for all of the local presidents, it was at 11 in the morning. And for the reception, they had just a giant table full of whiskey and Coca-Cola.
Yeah.
At 11, and then people were like, "Okay, we're done with that now. On with the whiskey."
Yeah, yeah.
And it was like
people on the whiskey, man.
At 11 a.m.
Yeah.
I mean,
sure. With Coke. Hello.
Yeah.
Little lemon.
Well, you could have. I don't know if people were mixing it. Maybe it was just.
I would hope that they're mixing it. So you meet Alexander, and he's told you that he's divorced and kids, and you're like, okay, you're trying not to hide, because he's cute too. When did you guys hang out again as friends? Like, so what was the next step here?
Well, so
how did you let him know that you kind of like him?
Well, I think we exchanged numbers because I said, oh, you should come back and meet more of the because I was talking about the village, more of the culinarians. That's what I call them. And, come back and see us. I said us as if, well, because it would be, I didn't want to say like, come back and see
Ollie.
me. What?
No, keep going.
No,
I love this.
he was there with a friend of his too.
So
it
did
was
you
sort of,
give him your number first?
I don't remember. It was sort of very organic where we were just talking about like if they were going to stay that evening for dinner or not. And so if you stay, we should meet up. And so we exchanged messages. And then I texted him later in the evening, are you coming back to see us tonight? Again, the us, right? And he said, kind of very aloofly, is that a word? We'll be back. We'll probably be back within the week.
We?
He was there with his friend.
Oh, I see.
Right. So it was like a friendly, we were all kind of like talking, but of course there was interest, but it was, so yeah, so after that, I thought, oh, I guess I misjudged that. He's not interested in me at all. So, and because I'm not interested in, having expectations or hopes, I just put it out of my mind. And I thought, that's it. I guess he's not interested, because it was such a kind of cold response. Then the next day, I'm sitting there at the beach again, and all of a sudden, hello, hello, there he is putting his towel down next to me with his friend, and they'd come back. And then he just kept coming every day. And so,
He was 12 date ruling you.
Yes, I was thinking of your 12 date rule, because we kind of, I guess, decided to, basically live together and get engaged on our second date, but like only our official second date. But it was actually much
but it
longer
was
than
like
that.
the 20th date under Maria Math.
Yeah, but so we spent a lot of time together with other friends. So we had, I invited him to dinner with some of my other friends.
And you met his friends.
Yes, and his brother came to visit at some point, so
Wow.
I met him. So it was very like easygoing. We had, some lunches together and some dinners together, and just days at the beach talking. But I thought that he didn't like me, and I was getting more and more sort of irritated by that, because he wasn't. I mean, he kept appearing. And so I thought, well, maybe, I guess he just really likes the village here and all the people that he's met, and he's just using me to get to them. Because, like, I would try to, like, I would like flirt a little bit
at the beach.
And I would flirt a little bit. He sort of wasn't hitting the ball back. And sometimes he would text me and he would say, oh, we're at Naftilos. That's another cafe.
That's a nice cafe.
And I'm like, what is that? He doesn't even say, we're at Naftilos, come over or join us if you want. And so since it's such a tiny village, I'm riding my bike past. I'm not going to pass without saying hello. So like,
were you wearing your big hat?
Yeah.
Of course you were.
Of
That's
course.
literally,
Sun protection.
anytime I think of Kalanera, I swear to you, I think of you on your bike with the basket and your big ass hat. That's all I ever think about. So
seriously.
that makes, because it's just so cute. It's like, oh, right there she is. So how long are we talking about here now? Because now I'm thinking like he's wasting your time for like a month.
No, it was like a week.
Okay.
But I mean, we were just, he
Chilling.
was just among, my new friends, right?
Okay.
But finally I started to get a little annoyed, because he would like the last time he texted me and said, yeah, we're at Naftilo. So I decide, okay, I'm going to stop by and say hello, but it's rude that he hasn't invited me. I'm just being summoned, So I just said, hi, I'm going to lunch now. It's nice to see you guys. And then I left. And then because I'm, not as rude as he is, I texted him later and I said, I'm having lunch here. If you feel like joining me, you're welcome. Otherwise, I'll see you later. And then to my surprise, he turned up and he just sits there. He's not hungry. He's like, no, I'm just going to watch you eat. So he's just sitting there, while I have my private banquet. He's just watching me. And then he invited me. He said,
he didn't even order a beer? I picture you drinking a beer.
I think he had a drink. Yeah.
Okay.
I think he had a Cipro. Yeah. And then he said, what are you doing on Wednesday? And I said, first of all, what is Wednesday? Because, you lose all sense of time in that town.
Yeah.
So I was just like, what is a Wednesday and what is today?
Yeah.
Like, I have no idea. Anyway, and then he said, I was wondering if you wanted to go to Volos with me. And so at this point, I'd completely written him off, like, whatever, that guy, I'm not going to. And so he says, I was wondering if you want to go to Volos. And so I said, why? Because I didn't and he's like, what do you mean why? And I'm like, well, what for? And he's like, well, I thought, we could go to dinner. There's a lot of nice tavernas. And so I said, oh, okay.
Did you ask him, like, is this a date?
No, because I still was sort of, and then I thought, okay, he just wants some company. So I agreed to it, thinking, again, it's just because I enjoyed his company. So, and
did he pick you up? Like, how did you get there?
Oh, so that's the other thing. And then I said, well, I'd love to go, but I don't want to drive. So, can you pick me up? And he said, I don't have a car, because his friend had been driving them every day. So I said, well, I believe you can do anything you put your mind to. And he's like, you want me to buy a car? And I'm like, I I'm not telling you what to do, but, I'm here. Phyllis is there. I mean, and by the way, some of my friends gave me they said, oh, why do you have to give him such a hard time? I don't think it's a hard thing at all. Like, it's a normal thing. If you want to see someone, you can figure out how to call a cab or rent a car. So I didn't say any of that because I'm not going to do, the work for you. And I don't have, it's like, yes, I would love to go, but this is the barrier. And so anyway, a couple days later, he said, so are we, all set for Wednesday? And I said, well, have you provided for my transportation? And he said, yes, don't worry about that. I've rented a car. But meanwhile, some of my friends were like, oh, Iris, just go. You're going to have fun. Take the bus. And I'm like, no way. I'm not going to deliver myself to him on the bus, I mean, because it's just not the right feeling. It's not that I can't or don't know how to take the bus. It's that if he wants to see me and, and I'm going to make an effort, then he should make an effort.
I love you so much. Like, I can't, like, I wish people, if you're listening to this, go on YouTube and watch my face is like, I'm glowing listening to this story because this is my first time hearing it. I've been waiting patiently for today to record to find out like all the details. This is like the best detail. This is incredible. Because like you set the tone, like not about the transportation, but about like this whole time you felt like you were being disrespected. And you're like, no, like respect me. Like I'm not going to show up. You need to help me. Like I like it. All I'm trying to say is I like it. Keep going.
And I mean, he wasn't disrespecting me before that. I guess it was just that I did not understand. And I now I appreciate his restraint in terms of he was not, he wasn't looking to kind of seduce me.
Yeah.
So he was getting to know me in a, in a slow way,
intentional,
which was nice. And
I don't think he was just, and I agree. Maybe that's like the wrong word I'm saying here, disrespecting, but I think it's definitely like, you felt from what you said that like, he's telling you where he is and you're like, I'm being summoned. And you're like, no, like,
he didn't put himself out there to say like, I want to see you.
Right.
Which is to take that risk versus just taking for granted that,
Yeah.
And so that's why I also.
So what'd you wear?
I thought it was very important that he should pick me up because it made me feel more comfortable and safe than if I were going there and I'm like, well, I don't know what this is or whatever. What did I wear? Well, the plan was to go swimming first and then go to dinner later. So I wore a sundress with a bathing suit and then later changed into a long dress.
Okay.
And we didn't end up going swimming. We went for a walk because first we had to stop at his apartment just to put our coffees down. And he wanted to show me the apartment.
Okay.
Which I normally wouldn't do that. But okay, at this point, we know each other.
Now you guys are like on your 20th
right.
date.
So we're sitting on his terrace. And it's nice. It's right on the water, right behind the church where everyone gets married there.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So
that's a nice place to have an apartment.
Yeah, it is very nice.
Yeah.
So we're talking for a long time, and I noticed that he keeps if before I thought he wasn't flirting with me, now it was like he had, he was just like looking right at me, through me or something. So I'm like, all of a sudden I'm all nervous, like what is kind of happening here? Because even, by the way, when I was going there, I still wasn't sure if it was a date. I said to my friends Magda and Maria, I think maybe I was just asked on a date. Here's what happened. And they're like, oh no, you were asked on a date.
He rented a car for you.
Well, before I found out about the car, when he first just...
Right.
But I still was like, kind of...
Yeah.
And again, no expectations, trying not to do what have an easy time doing, which is launch into fairy tales about, what could be or whatever.
Okay.
So I wasn't thinking about anything even. I mean, I didn't even know if we would kiss at the end of it. So now suddenly we're on his terrace and, and at some point he kissed me. And then, we're kissing and, I think I'm like relaxed and normal. And he's like, relax, enjoy yourself, which by the way sounds really sleazy, but like he's not at all. But anyway, but I guess because I was probably like a little, nervous and panicked. And so he's like, so what do you want to do? I'm like, weren't we going to go for a walk? So anyway, so we leave the apartment.
Smart.
Because I think
you need a third location.
He had it. Now I realized like, oh, he's planning on, he wants to seduced me. I got to get out of here.
Yeah.
Not because I wasn't into him, but I just wasn't, it's not my speed,
Yeah.
So then we went to Makrinitsa all the way up in the mountain.
What?
And had dinner there.
Wait, was this the plan?
He had arranged this without,
Wow.
Yeah.
So Makrinitsa, for those who don't know, because none of you know, again, we mentioned Pilion Mountain. This is like a village all the way up there. Like when I say all the way up there, it takes like 35 minutes of car riding just to get to this like cafe that hangs over the cliff. It's like, you're like 10,000, like you're literally where the clouds are.
Yeah, it's beautiful. You have a beautiful view
it's
of
stunning.
Volos
It's
and all the
gorgeous. Like
surrounding
your
areas.
ears pop though. Like I don't know if people would take the effort for like a hookup to go all the way up there. Like that's effort.
Yeah, it was really
Yeah.
It
That's
was really
nice. Okay.
So we had a walk through the village up there and had dinner, and then we came back down and went to a cafe for a drink, and then at this point I'm realizing, I forgot to say, so he's supposed to fly out the next day to go be with his son in Mallorca for the remainder of the vacation. So this is our first date and potentially
Last date.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But again, not futurizing, just
Yeah.
So it's around, I guess, midnight or 1, which in Greece is early.
Yeah. That's when you go out.
Right. But, still, but I'm starting to think like, okay, the end of the night is coming. And since I'm living with my parents there, so I asked him, I'm like, is it okay if I stay in the guest room tonight and you can drive me back in the morning? Because I don't want the night to end. But I'm concerned about the drive back.
Right.
Because just, so he's like, sure, the guest room. But I really meant the guest room.
Did you really stay in the guest room?
Well, yes, sort of. It's just that he came in there with me. But we didn't, we were restrained, but it was very...
Girl, you've already passed the 12-date rule.
But it was very intimate. It was very intimate.
I bet. He's your friend. Of course it's intimate.
I mean, and yeah, it was very, wonderful. And
then wait, because you before mentioned that you guys talked about your future on the second date. Was the second date the next day?
No, the second date is when I went to see him in Liverpool. So anyway, so he leaves. So he takes me home the next morning, and I'm feeling kind of sad because
well, you're drunk on oxytocin.
And I'm thinking like, so I'll probably, our lives are incompatible, and probably this might just be the end. And he seems clearly like he has responsibilities, and he's, as I said, reticent. So he's not, what I liked about him is he's not making big promises about anything, even though, let's say, a person of lesser character might do that, say a lot without an intent to follow through. But so he was just not saying that, weren't talking about.
Mm-hmm.
But then he started talking about, when we were having coffee in the morning on the way home, about how there's a new flight to New York from Liverpool via Reykjavik. And I'm thinking, like, wow, this guy really knows a lot about flight plans. Like, part of me was like, is he hinting that he wants to come and see me? Or, I don't want to assume the wrong thing, because in the past, having like, things don't work out. So I'm like, no, he probably just knows a lot about flight routes. Maybe it's like a hobby.
About Icelandic Air? Is that what it is?
Yeah. Anyway, so then we said, he said, it's difficult to promise anything. When he was leaving me, he seems very distraught, so I had to console him. It's difficult to promise anything because, I hope we'll see each other again if we ever see each other again.
He's saying this to you as he's leaving?
Yes, as he's...
That's a lot. Okay.
And so I kissed him goodbye, and I said, it doesn't have to be that heavy. If we want to see each other, we will, and we'll see. Yeah. So I left. I had a great time. I was telling my cousin Eleni, who was visiting and in the house, about this fantastic date, but he lives in Liverpool. And so I don't know if, anything can come from this, or if, maybe I'll never see him again. But even so, it was a wonderful time. So I'm just going to be grateful for that, because, what am I going to move to Liverpool?
What are you going to do? Move to Liverpool?
Those are my exact words. What am I going to do? Move to Liverpool?
And what did Eleni say?
He didn't say it. It was a rhetorical question. Like, of course, like, ha, ha, ha.
Oh my God. If you had said that to me, I'm like, yeah, what are you going to do? Move to Liverpool?
It was not on the, yeah. So I thought I would never, really hear from him again. Then he starts texting me again the same day a lot.
Of course he is.
And I was like, oh, that's nice. But still, I didn't want to get my hopes up. But he continued communicating every day. And we started having long video calls. And he suggested that I visit him in Liverpool on my way back to New York. So then...
that big ass storm happened.
Yes, which he's now talking to his friend to try to help me to escape.
Yeah.
He's like, maybe my
Nothing
friend can
like a
come
little
by
trauma
boat.
to like really set the cement of this.
It was really like, that's what they do on The Bachelor, to have like a trauma bond. They send them skydiving or something so that so we had a little bit near death.
God did this to
surviving the storm and then arriving in his arms. But by the time I arrived in Liverpool, though, we'd had a lot of serious, long conversations that suggested, I mentioned to my friend Laura, like, I wasn't talking about it much because I didn't want to, I don't know, like expose the photo before it had been developed. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
So I was very quiet about this.
That is a metaphor that nobody under 25 will ever understand.
Oh.
But continue.
Yeah. So I was very quiet about this. I wasn't really sharing my feelings or the details with my friends. But I did say to Laura, like, I think he might be serious because he was speaking about, what he wants, a partner for the rest. I mean, we were talking about serious things. I mean, you can have a lot of conversations with someone for like years and never really talk about anything important.
Oh, yeah. I have people ask me questions on Wednesdays and they're like, how do I mention I want to get married? And I go, how long have you been dating? 6 years? What? You haven't mentioned it once? Like, how does that happen?
Yeah, I think it's very, very common. So even though we hadn't known each other that long, there were, really open,
intentional,
forthright,
I love
and
that.
romantic conversations. So by the time I arrived there, I mean, now again, I was trying not to futurize, but it had crossed my mind like, yeah, we'll probably get married, and then put it out of my mind, because it's also probably...
But nothing prepared you that you'd get married in the next like...
No, so I arrived on a Friday, and by Saturday morning, we were sitting on a sofa, and it had been decided that we wanted to spend the rest of our lives together, and that I would move to Liverpool so we could start the rest of our lives right away. And that we want to die at the same time. So since he's 2 years older than me, we're going to go for 104 and 106.
Yeah, that's fair. That's great. I hope that happens. So, this is like mid-September. So we met like around August. So July 30th is when you first met him. Your first date's like August 10th-ish. From what I'm gathering.
Yes.
And you, in a month, September 10th, you're like, yeah, this is it.
Yeah. So I called my parents and told them, I'm moving to Liverpool. We're in love and we want to spend our lives together.
And what did your mom say?
I don't remember her exact words, but it was overall like positive. Which she hasn't been positive about my other relationships in the past.
This is a great sign, then.
There was something very different about this. There was just a kind of a calmness.
You know why? Because he's from Volos. She's like, oh, a local.
Yeah.
Even though he's not that local.
I don't even think she knew that. She knew that. No, but also the other thing is my mom can't say that much because she moved to America to marry my father. And they basically knew each other. They met in the summer. He came back the next summer and the next summer and they wrote letters. So she was also marrying a stranger.
Oh my God, that's my parents. That's literally my parents. My parents met each other at a party and then they wrote letters for like 2 years or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's kind of, old fashioned. What's funny is that some of our friends and family have said to Alexander and I, they think that they talk about like the traditional way of doing things, which is, maybe you should live together for a long time and, find out everything about this person. No. But the irony is that both Alexander and I are very traditional, and this is the way that it used to be done. So, that like you get to know someone and then finally you take a leap of faith versus you sort of, investigate every little thing and live together. And then maybe after 6 years, you
literally dated the way Greek people dated pre-1980. So before 1980, because this is what I'm writing in my book too. Before 1980, Greek people met someone, like you saw someone. Like I'll tell you about my in-laws. My father-in-law was at the square and was like, she's pretty. Who's that? And someone said the name and they're like, okay. And then he went back to his mom and was like, I saw her. I want to go out with her. And then she's like, okay. And then my husband's grandmother, my father-in-law's mom, talked to her dad and was like, hey, my son wants to meet your daughter. And he's like, okay, we'll arrange it. My mother-in-law did not want to go out with my father-in-law at all until she found out that he had a car. And then she's like, okay, I'll go out with him. And they got married 2 weeks later. And that is like, what I just said is like literally the most typical How I Met Your Mother story in the Greek culture. Like people knew each other for a few weeks and then they got married. And what they did was, and I'm not saying that was necessarily a good marriage. What I'm saying is that you had to learn how to communicate and compromise at like a quick speed, right? And again, it's very easy to say this because you're talking about like homogeneous, society, right? Like everyone has the same religion, everyone has the same culture, you can, same food. Like there's not a lot to. But at the same time, you have the situation where like right now in Greece, it's like the complete opposite. People will date for like 12 years.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what are you doing? It's like, no, we'll get married after we have a baby. And I'm like, well, okay, but have you learned how to compromise this whole time? Have you learned how to like figure it out? I think you may have. And I love that for you. So when did you guys get married?
January 4th.
I'm so happy for you.
Thank you.
Nazzy said that, as we say in Greek.
And
you're having a Greek wedding. So that was a civil court wedding?
Yes, here in New York. He and Linus came over and the whole family was all together for a week. And
did you get a magnet? I got married in New York City?
No, but we did get T-shirts that say Spouse A and Spouse B from City Hall.
Nice. Because I did. Me and my husband, we did our U.S. because we didn't feel like translating our Greek documents to English, so we got married in the U.S. first, like 6 months before, and we got the magnet that says like I got married at New York City Hall or whatever.
Oh, nice.
But then we had our Greek wedding in Greece.
Yeah, so that's kind of what we're going to do. So now we got married. It was wonderful. Just with my immediate family and a few friends. A few friends joined us after for dim sum in Chinatown.
Yeah, perfect.
And then it was fantastic. And then he and Linus had to go back for work and school. And I'm not allowed to join them because I have to apply for my spousal visa from my home country. So I just filed the application last Friday and now am waiting until I get the approval so that I can go back. So it's a little bit odd because we were together in this little family and now I'm in exile. Suddenly like did that even happen? How did I end up in this,
now you're on my couch talking about it.
Yeah. But we do have, we have plans to sort of bridge because it might be 6 weeks until I'm approved to go back, which is like, is the Home Office trying to break people up? Like, why are they doing this to us? It's so cruel. It's
6 weeks is not that bad. Other places it's a lot longer.
Yeah, I know. And this is expedited.
Yeah.
For a little extra money. I make it sound like it's an under the table deal.
No,
it's not. But they're just like,
you
can do it faster. We put you to the top of the pile if you pay $1,000 more. So it's like expensive process too. But anyway, so what we're going to do, we've been apart for now 2 weeks, seems longer. This weekend, we're going to meet in Marrakesh. He has a long weekend for work. And so we're going to have like a mini honeymoon. And then I have to come back here for my biometric appointment.
Okay.
And then again, I have to wait potentially 6 weeks before I get approval from that date. So after that, I'm going to fly over to Europe and wait for him in different European towns, and then he's going to fly to meet me on the weekends.
This is so graciously romantic. I'm obsessed.
Well, we're trying to make the best of it,
I love it.
And so we're like, okay, we'll have like a weird little
honeymoons all across Europe.
Yes, and which part of the time I'm by myself. But it feels better because at least like if I'm someplace, let's say if I'm in France, I'll be waiting there knowing that he's going to come on the weekend versus, such a long time apart. And so we'll have this nice
I love that
memory.
I am so happy for you. And I'm so happy you got to share this story. Now I'm so happy they don't have to say this story 1,000 times. You can tell all of your other friends. I talked about it on Maria's podcast here.
Yes,
There you go.
I appreciate that because it is.
Because I saw your Facebook messages and I was like, holy crap, dude. Like everyone's asking, like, what happened? What?
Yeah.
And I was like, she's going to record it and then she's going to send it to you. And now also all of my listeners get to hear, like, look at this. Your life fully changed in 4 months.
Yeah, it changed kind of, even
Like that.
even less than that. I mean, that's what's so
I love it.
strange.
I love it.
Anything can happen. I mean,
Just have
you're
to be
moving
open.
in one way and then all of a sudden it's just like a hard left turn. And I'm so happy because it's really everything I wanted from when I was a kid.
And you got a stepson out of it. And that's pretty cool too.
Yeah, he's wonderful. He's 9.
Yeah.
And we have a lot of fun together. So it's kind of a dream.
That's
really.
amazing. I'm so happy for you. Okay, I have to give you a hug. Sorry. I can't. Oh my God. That's amazing.
Thank you.
All right. Let me say goodbye to you.
Okay.
Iris, it is so amazing hearing the story because I think it, like back to what I said at the beginning of the episode, it's like, it's not about when you least expect it, it will happen. I don't believe in that. I believe it's the intention of being open and you change something, right? Like you said at the beginning of this episode that like you kind of like, you know what? I need to make friends. And you were just talking to people, things that you would not normally do. You were just talking to random people, even on your way to the bathroom.
Yeah.
And like 4 months later now we've got a husband and a stepkid.
Yeah. It came on the heels of kind of radical acceptance of my single future turned into something completely different.
What do you think? I just want to ask one last question before we wrap this episode. What do you think the characters in Iris Has Free Time or Droll Tales or, Dating for the Unemployed, like what do you think the protagonist of your books would say about Iris met a guy in the village, told him to rent a car if he wants to go on a date?
I did not tell him to rent a car. I said that's not my business.
Yeah, but
You do it.
anyway.
Yes. I think, well, I don't know. I think that they would think it's a solid development.
I think they would be so proud of you. I'm proud of you. I love this. I'm just so happy. I saw the photos. You look so happy and he looks like a really good guy and he's cute. So, well done.
Thank you.
Now you get to live in Liverpool. And now I have someone to visit in Liverpool.
I'm looking forward to that. You must
Although
come.
I'll probably keep seeing you in Greece because that's what we do now.
Yes, as soon as we figure out the swimming situation.
The swimming situation. We have to
Right.
figure that out. Well, anyway, I just want to again thank you for coming on the Ask a Matchmaker podcast. Where can people find you?
Find me. Oh, you mean like on the internet?
Yeah.
Okay. You'll never find me. That was my first, reaction. Coppers, you'll never catch me. No, okay. IrisSmyles.com.
Yeah, I'm going to include that in the show notes. I'm also
Yeah.
going to include the links to your book because I love your books. I think you're such a great writer. And it's funny because sometimes I'll be in the village with your friends who don't know you like as the New Yorker. They know you as, Iris in Greece.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, she's like a big deal author. Like she's got like really good books. And I'm like, really? Like I love that they don't know. Like it's like you have such a separation. And I've said this to you before too. It's like it's such a fun to see like both worlds.
Yeah, it's another life over there.
Totally. That's kind of like when I was in Greece last summer and my cousin was out to dinner and he's like, I don't understand. What do you do? And I'm like, I'm a matchmaker. And he's like, do you have a degree in that? And I'm like, no. And he's like, okay, why are people here? I'm like, because they like me. I'm on Instagram. And he's like, I don't understand. And I'm like, forget it. Like my cousin has no idea.
Yeah.
He's like, no idea.
Well, there is a big fascination with you among some of my longtime friends in Greece that you've met, like Kouduris,
Right.
whom you've met, and he's like, yes, your friend the matchmaker, and so they're very fascinated with you as I am.
I'm fascinated by you, so the feeling is mutual. Anyway, again, thank you so much for coming on, and I'm so happy for your friends to hear this episode. I'm so happy to have heard this story. And I'm so happy I get to share this with my listeners because I know that this is only going to make them believe in love more. And that's just, I love that.
Thank you, Maria.
Thank you. And thank you for listening. If you enjoyed this episode, I want you to like it, rate it, subscribe, go on YouTube, comment, give Iris your wishes, the comments, and of course, be lovable, but more importantly, be likable. See you next week.